standing in as chairman this evening because Lindsay can't make it. I have an email here. Hi, apologies for missing tonight. Family matters set before meeting dates changed. And Lindsay has also stated that he is dropping the chairmanship position because he's completed his year. So first thing on the agenda for this evening is to elect a chairman, and the chairman will sign the declaration of acceptance and take over from me. So I hope. So we need somebody to propose a new chairman, then we'll put it to a vote.
I'm happy to propose Adam.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Excellent. Anybody else? You're happy to have it?
Proposed, yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Right. All those in favour of Adam becoming the new chairman?
Yeah, you can.
Excellent. Well, in that case.
Thank you.
Is this the point where we swear around to the allegiance?
Just sign.
Yeah.
So like sign the way 50.
Well, good evening everyone. First of all, I'd probably just like to say thanks for, I know he's not here tonight, but Lindsay's had a tough year behind him there, and we'll hopefully have him sticking around in the Parish Council to help us along. Item number 2 will be to elect the Vice Chairman. And the Vice Chairman will sign the Declaration of Acceptance to receive the Council a list of laws. Do we have anyone to propose someone?
I would propose John.
I'll second that.
So we cast a vote on that then? For John as Vice Chairman?
Thank you.
So we will move on then. We have apologies of absence. We obviously have Lindsay there.
Councillor Flint, Councillor Evans.
Councillor Flint and Councillor Evans. Yes. Any declarations of interest in items on the agenda?
I think I am going to declare it because of what I'm going to put forward regarding the ramp at Riverside that Jamie Melvin, who I made an agreement with that I wanted to try and pass tonight. I am close personal friends with him, and he is doing this not because he needs the work. He's squeezing us in as a favour, but I've known him for a long period of time, so I think we should be aware of that.
No. That's good. Okay. Moving on then to public questions. Members of the public may ask questions and make representations. Public questions limited to 10 minutes in total, and may be necessary to limit the time allocated to each residence in accordance with standing orders orders 4 D to J. Do you have any public questions?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. One of them, item 14B, I can ask, it's in the finance, I could ask at that point if that would be more appropriate.
Okay.
The second question is, the parish meeting took place on the 24th of April 2023. 3 weeks have passed since that meeting, and yet there are no minutes, published minutes. The external auditor advised Felton Parish Council that the draft minutes should be made available at the meeting or as soon as possible afterwards, as waiting a year was not acceptable. Why the Felton Parish Council ignoring the external auditor's advice, and what date can the parish expect to see the published draft minutes?
Okay, firstly, I would say unrealistic to get draft minutes at a meeting. I've never yet to be at a meeting in my whole life that you would ever get that. Secondly, we'll look to get them out at the soonest opportunity.
Is there a possible sort of timescale? I'm aware that a year has waiting a year until the next parish meeting was being
No, I intend to do the same as last year, which is within a month.
right. Thank you.
Any further questions? No. Okay. Moving on then, recording. Agree to record meetings and implement immediately if resolution is passed. Do you want some discussion on this?
Everyone should have read my email.
Yeah.
The only thing I've got to add to it is that there's quite a few parishes who've done a set of rules and regulations for recording meetings. And I looked at it and thought, well, that's quite a good idea. Maybe we should do that too.
Yeah.
Not that any of them aren't complied with, but I think it might be a good idea to
Just taking it.
put it in black and white kind of thing. That's the camera there. The angle is pretty much, it excludes everybody from this side of the room, so it's just on us. I can control it from my phone, well, I'll have to switch it on this time.
Okay.
So, and what I'm proposing to do really is to then edit the video into something which can go on the website, and will give people a useful kind of bit of background information, hopefully in a really user-friendly way. It'll be via YouTube, but we can put links, I think, can we go on the website to a YouTube video?
We can put a link on, I don't know if we can embed the video, but
Right,
we'll have a look
okay.
at something like that.
Okay.
It should be, I don't know, it's a very basic website, but we'll have, we just, for example, do my Excel documents and make them into PDFs. So,
But it should, the idea that I'm having, I don't know how familiar you are with using YouTube, but that we make a playlist which for each playlist is a heading, if you like, of different sort of areas of interest in Redfield, etc. So I hope it'll be reasonably user friendly and also drive traffic to the website and to our Facebook page.
Is there a reason why we're recording from over there and not centrally?
Well, I just thought it was more convenient. It works well off the table.
Right.
In that format, and I just thought that was a good angle rather than put it slap bang in the angle. I can do that.
Well, we could just try the
This one's going to be a bit of a trial run, so.
And the time frame of getting it from the meeting onto YouTube, what do you think? Would that be a couple of weeks? But will Claire be able to get it sooner than that so that she can check minutes and cross-check things?
Yeah.
Is that going to be possible?
File size, it may be a problem.
we
Right.
can liaise about that.
Yeah,
not-
yeah.
I
It could
don't
be a
think-
flash drive that gets transferred.
Because I mean, 2 hours of video is a sizable video.
Yeah,
I'm
it
taking
should-
it low
yeah.
format, low density.
Cool.
There's obviously going to be occasions when you're not here, so you're going to train somebody else up on how to use it.
Yeah, unless I'm taking the camera away on holiday. Hopefully the two won't coincide.
Yeah,
I can do
in
that.
which case we'll get our phones out.
Yeah.
Do a bit each.
So, do we want to set some rules now? What are we? Is it more like a declaration of how it'll be used? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
because if we want to start videoing now, we should have that in place, shouldn't we? Is that possible? Yeah.
I mean, the basic principle I was working on is not including the
Yeah.
visitors, just us.
And just
Yeah.
so the public know, is the microphone picking them up as well, or is it?
You've been picking up a bit, but it's
Right.
pointing this way. The whole thing is pointing this way. So I don't know. Until I try it, I don't know. Obviously, we'll protect the privacy of the people.
Yeah. I think as you say, if it's on the paper table, we can position it around, depending on how many space for them. And perhaps we trial at a location and move it partway even in the first instance to give us, right, there works, does there work, or whatever.
You can, if I switch it on, you go, I won't start it recording, but if I switch it on, you can see then what's being recorded. Talk amongst yourselves.
Do you want some rhubarb?
Oh, yeah.
I've got loads of rhubarb.
Please.
Yeah. Yes, I love rhubarb. I like rhubarb. Good for your blood, your children that don't eat fruit and vegetables.
They do that.
Is that
Is that Duncan
Hey,
Sugar?
melons. What? Hey, melons.
Yeah, it's obviously the right kind of food.
Oh,
The
that's
right kind of
very
fruit
good.
vegetables.
That's what it's doing, actually, that does need to go a bit to the left, I think, doesn't it? How's that?
I've got a lot of all over
Yeah.
here.
Put it in the middle.
Yeah.
I think you should probably put there, yeah.
It's not like we'll fit
Whoa.
into a feeder at all.
Right, back a bit.
Up a bit.
Okay. Sorry, excuse us.
A bit down, a bit left, a bit right, a bit.
Tell me more. Keep
Quick
going.
one.
Tell me more.
Back a bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're not going to be in.
A bit more.
I can move the head, so I can move the
Oh,
head.
well, I'm happy to see what you think to it.
Yeah, that's sure. We just got Chris in on that sound.
Yeah, I think for the numbers we've got here, should might need to be even
Yeah.
round the back of that maybe. Yeah.
Form a circle. Bird eye view.
Fish lenses.
Yeah.
Any other comments on it?
I think it's worth an experiment.
Definitely.
We'll get that one.
Yeah, so make the proposal then that we,
That will be called a meeting, I recommend it to the house.
okay. I'll second that, that we do a trial period, we monitor how it is, and basically, so. Do we have to vote, everyone? Sure.
I'll press record.
Do you want a date in about when we're going to review?
If we,
6 more hence?
Try.
if,
Well, considering we've got 15
Yeah.
years and that.
yeah, 6 months period for review then. So, to approve as a record of the minutes and meeting of the Council of Health on the 3rd of April 23, pages 4 to 7. Any comments?
Can I just say to John, thank you on behalf of everybody in the village that managed to get to the Jubilee celebration. I think it was much appreciated by everyone.
No, definitely is. Okay, so we
And plant a tree, please.
Right,
Plant a tree.
next on the list.
next. So we agree that a true record.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes.
And proceed with minutes and reporting from the working groups and committee meetings.
We have had a cemetery meeting that hasn't come through yet, because it hasn't finished the date of that.
Well, we did seem to do a lot of actions.
yeah, they're in progress.
No problem.
So, Reckfield, working group met last week, did a walk around, inspected down where the proposed riverside walk would be, and then we've got a planned place for Chris to go and do a recorded walk around, so that, because there are very, very, very clear desire lines down there.
Yeah.
We do need to find out about the electricity piles as well. So that is on the to-do list to see if that's going to interfere, and then we can get on to Natural England about it. We did a walk around the rest of it, looked at the play area, and we'll be looking at some of the quotes that we got for more equipment in there, and we've got a pretty clear idea what we need to do there, and we're just going to then see if we can get a small fund for getting those put in place. We received the plan that Kevin has done for us with the proposed position of the new mugger and facilities building, and now we just need to get the pre-authorisation done for that. If we need assistance with that, Kevin is happy to help us with it, to put that through and fill out the application, but I think we've done it before, haven't you, Claire? It's all pretty self-explanatory, so once we get the pre-auth from that, then we will start looking for a bigger grant for those items.
Good.
Property group had a walk around, some more bins need replacing, and then as previously suggested, there was a multitude of additional flower pots requested to different locations on the bridge. On Main Street.
There's a number of the benches which are unusable and unsafe. We need to compile an action plan.
Sarah,
There's one certainly the sanctuary about down the War Memorial that's in centre of
Yes,
concrete
the-
flat.
yeah, the
And we've
War
got
Memorial.
plans that we've been looking at alternatives to sit for there.
Oh, right.
So we won't get one of them, the more, you know, the sort of less you get type ones.
There's some gorgeous ones.
Yeah, yeah.
What has anything happened with the dog poo bins after that previous email?
We just need to order a new bin.
Right, okay, just order it.
I know from myself doing the walk that being better at emptying them, I would say.
Right.
It might have been a mishap on
It
that.
certainly wasn't overflowing when we were there.
Yeah.
It looks like it's been.
If it was a one missed.
Yeah, I just had a big verbal complaints about it.
The one right at the end,
No, it's
or is it the one in the middle next to school, or just past?
it's at Windy Gap.
So right at the end,
Yeah, it's the furthest away.
because the one next to where there's, would be the first one as we go along, is often full as well, yeah. So I think that whole stretch might get missed.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's there.
Chair, sorry, just to get to 9, I'm on the boring bit. Do you want to, I don't know if I'm going 16 forward, so travelling not to sit through it.
Yeah, I suppose we'll probably kind of, since you've had a long day, Trevor, do you get an update from Councillor Thorne?
Yeah. There's currently a review being undertaken about county council boundaries. And I am, unhappy to report that the Shilbottle seat is going to be divided up. Well, that's what they're proposing. And they're wanting to take Felton off me, which I'm very sad about. Obviously, this sort of comes about because there's been strong growth in other parts of my seat, especially Long Framington, where there are sort of potentially 700-800 more voters, people to look after. I shall be fighting this because I'm very fond of Felton. I think it sits well within the Shilbottle seat. We are a collection of rural villages with similar problems. I know Felton. And, you know, I'd like to continue to be the county councillor.
I was just wondering though, part of it is the connection with Thurston, isn't it? Because if you remember, originally they wanted to take Thurston into the Hexham larger constituency.
Yes.
And we had sort of Thurston Council ourselves, and I know some villagers had put in to say that with all of the connections between the two, and you know, the shared societies, the village fair, everything, he didn't feel that that was a right decision. But obviously now they're talking about, okay, well you can have Thurston, but you're leaving Shilbottle to do it. So is it a case that it's either or? I mean,
I don't think so. I think
So
would we be able to get Thurston in? What I'm
where
saying
are
is,
we going if you're not going to be our...
we're going in with Thurston, we're going into Thurston, whatever Thurston is.
So we're going into Hexham?
Mhm.
Well, that's rubbish.
well, you know, that's
I think that's
the
point,
political
it's either almost, you
Yeah,
know, we
yeah.
stay with
I
Thurston,
know,
which is
just-
Hexham because of numbers, or we potentially stay with Shilbottle, but then we're in a entirely different constituency because they'll be Hexham and we'll be there.
Thurston shouldn't be in Hexham.
Well, we know, that's what we said, that's what we said.
and that's
Oh,
what, you know,
that's
these
like
proposals.
I know.
Yeah, with
So
the
it's
right.
actually- yeah, exactly.
Well, anyway, I am trying to fight that, and you know, I would like
But
to.
they've got a further consultation out, haven't they? So
Yes,
we
yeah.
can put in further comments now, we've just had that round.
But are you saying that it's because of all the development in your area that increases the
I am, because you know,
footfall? Yes, so
these days, you know,
So-
they like to make the county council equal. It wasn't the case, you know, when I first joined the county council. Shilbottle's seat had over 5,000 voters. Then it took in Warkworth, Acklington, Guysands, Shilbottle and everything else. So it was one of the very big seats. But now they try and make everybody equal so that the county council seats are of equal size. So I think this is part of the thinking behind. But I don't mind looking after more people. I would like to look after the area I know and try to look after, you know, the last 30 years. It's yeah, I'm sure Glenn will make a good job of it, but I would like to keep it. Thanks very much. There we go.
Yeah.
If it's approved, Trevor, when will it have to go ahead?
It won't go ahead until the next election, so that'll be May 25.
So the money you promised the council for that.
So the other point that I've got down here is that if they are going to take Felton away from me, let's get that Riverside project and the nice walk along there sorted so that I can get my money spent and you can have it.
Thank you.
Yes, on the garages front, Rob Murphy made an approach to me, you know, purely as a friend really, but he was saying that one possible way of, you know, keeping the garages in Felton, for Felton, would be the possibility of a community asset transfer where the county council transferred this asset to the parish council. You know, I think financially I think the idea would sort of stack up. Obviously, you know, you would have to have some sort of survey, but you know, the important thing is that you know, in all this, we're trying to keep the garages for Felton. We are, and this possibly could be a way of keeping them for Felton forever. And you know, when these spurious planning applications come along, want to change them to something else, we'll have our reasons why, you know, we think they should stay as they are. But you know, I do understand. Obviously, we've got a legal challenge in, and county is not talking to us about a community asset.
That's why you're being shipped off of the ship.
Probably. Oh, I didn't want to say that though. But yes, you know, I think, you know, long term, hopefully we could negotiate and see if community asset transfer does stack up and you know, keep the garages for Felton. Just on a very local issue, I was out this morning looking at the entrance to Victoria Terrace there. You might remember some years ago we got a keep clear sign put on there, And I do know some of the residents at the top of Victoria Terrace have had problems getting access to their properties on occasion. Sometimes when the delivery van for the surgery is there dropping off medicines, tablets, that sort of thing, and there's another car parked maybe a little bit further up, it does block that access. So look, this morning I got Michael McGonigal out, and I said, you know, would it be possible to refresh the keep clear sign, which he did agree to. And I said the white lines, you know, just go a little way beyond. It's that sort of whole entrance there that, you know, we'd like to keep clear so that it is a free access for the people living further up. But it does turn out that that isn't an adopted highway, that piece of ground. So it would be difficult for us to extend the white lines a little bit. But, you know, we're definitely going to refresh the keep clear sign. We're just going to have to wait and see what the highways guy comes up with.
I thought when they were on highways, they did adopt Bellway, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yes. Yes, they did. And the other thing I was going to share with you today, it's not very enlightening, but it's taken up most of my day, is, you know, I was invited today to go to an economic forum, just on a sort of how is the economy doing. This was Bank of England in Newcastle giving a sort of seminar on how the economy was doing. So I'm going to race through that very briefly. And just tell you a little bit about that. So they were saying that globally GDP is doing quite well, but here in the UK it is growing quite slowly, growing a tiny bit and then flat growth for the rest of the year. The economy seemed to be more resilient, but one thing they did put in is the warmer winter in the EEC has meant that the energy price shock hasn't been quite as severe and had so much effect. Obviously the strikes that we're having also kick into this and pull back growth a little bit. They're saying the labour situation, labour market, more people are coming in, it's easing a tiny bit, better signs there. I did say from the hospitality point of view, you know, we're still finding it very, very tough in hospitality to recruit staff, you know, very, very tight indeed. Interest rates, they say they're peaking at 4.5, so we're up there now. Mortgage rates continue to decline. House price growth quite weak. Capacity to grow. There's excess demand at the moment, but expecting labour markets to sort of ease a little bit later in the year. You know, again, unemployment, you know, never been as low in the northeast as it is at the moment. Almost the same as the sort of country wide. Inflation, you know, didn't fall as they predicted, still up 10%, lower in the US, 5%, and in Europe, 7%. All the factors that feed in, you know, one of the reasons why our inflation is so high compared with the US is that, you know, there are a lot of energy costs in Europe and in the UK, whereas, you know, the energy factor is less than the United States. So generally the conclusion was, you know, not a great one. We're not in recession. We're going to have small growth, labour markets slightly easing, and yes, hopefully inflation coming down to sort of 6-7% next year. So, you know, a little bit gloomy, but, you know, not too gloomy.
Right, another section.
Well, indeed. No, we haven't got, there's no R word, the Bank of England said, no R word yet. Anything else you'd like to ask me as councillor? Anything that's bothering you in the village?
So, no,
Do you want me to, as Trevor's putting in for the Riverside grant, do you want me to cover that now?
Yeah.
What's been going on? Yeah. So, I've got a quote through from Jamie, which is come out. We've got the.
I did send it round to you last minute, so I've got it out in your hand.
So he's quoted at £11,400 to replace the ramp, like for like as it is, on the position that the concrete standards do not need replacement for being reused. And he has got a structural engineer who had a glance over it for us today, who said, as far as they were concerned, at a glance, of course, it was probably going to be okay, the concrete standards. However, we wouldn't be able to say for sure until it had been demolished and removed and we could inspect them in situ. If, however, the concrete standards can't be reused that are already there at the moment, then they are suggesting that we would have to put individual concrete blocks in for each down post, which I think is 26 as it stands at the moment, which would obviously add significant cost to doing it and, you know, an awful lot more. He's also, so what he's doing, because he's employing somebody else to do the job, but he's overseeing it with his experience, he's had to take out additional insurance to cover it, or will have to, which is included in the quote as well. So, and he said that, let me just get the, get lost in the messages. How much it was going to cost for the structural engineer just to have a proper look at it. So he said that his fee would be £180 to do a full written assessment of it and advise us on the concrete standards, and that would be after they demolished it. Now, he says he couldn't give us a quote for just demolishing it and taking it away, because the person that he's got doing it probably wouldn't be willing to take on the work without knowing that he got it ongoing. He says, but obviously if it's going to be, then we'd have to deal with it, and it wouldn't be costing much more than just getting it demolished or anything. So the idea is the structural engineer is willing to do it, and we need to, but he is asking for payment before the work starts.
So the additional,
Yeah.
there would be an additional 180 that's not built into this.
Yeah, yeah. So that would be for the structural engineer.
Where's the money coming from?
So Trevor's pledged a lump sum for us, which was 10,000, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And then-
initially 5, but then
Yeah.
And then we have got some.
And then we were going to find the rest ourselves, so we've been looking, and like if we gave ourselves a buffer on it, I'm probably saying that we probably need to be thinking £2,000.
There's 6,250 in budget for it, if I read that right.
There's definitely some in the budget, lots of a bit of paper I've been writing back on. Yeah, 6,250 in the budget.
And it's,
Yeah.
So that's going to make such a difference.
yeah.
So they'd be looking for it, if we can pay was it the 2,850 now, then you can get it booked in to do it in August.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. But obviously that first payment is obviously to be, you know, to secure it, and then the second instalment, the next 25% would be so that we can cover the materials and things, and then the remaining 50% on completion of the work. And I know that we haven't got 3 quotes on this to compare, but this has been utterly impossible
Well,
to
we've tried.
pin everybody down to do it. And as I say, Jamie is doing more of a, you know, he doesn't need to take on the work, but he's doing it more to help us out.
I was just going to say, given the period of time that this has been ongoing,
Yeah,
we need
yeah.
to commit, because otherwise it'll be next year without any use.
And we
I
just
think
can't,
you're right.
every time I speak to people, they're just not interested in it. They've got lots of work on, and this is a, you know, faffy outdoor job.
Yeah.
Not all that interested in.
What are the complicating factors of a trip
Okay.
this out?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, but all of which Jamie's taken into account when doing this.
So what, they only commit to using the budget that's there
that's fine.
as required?
Do you feel comfortable with this, Trevor?
Yes, I do. The only thing that I would need really is, you know, a little bit more detail from Jamie, because, you know, the county council, this is sort of small schemes money,
Yeah.
and they'd like probably a little bit more information.
What type of information?
Well, about the costings of the structure. You know, how it's sort of made up.
Like a breakdown.
Like a breakdown,
Yeah,
because, you know, here we've just got sort of
Mhm.
ballpark figures.
Yeah. I mean, this is, he's calling this a quote,
Yes.
so,
It would be better to get a breakdown of
right,
how much
So like
the cost of
breakdown.
materials would be.
Even a materials, labour plan breakdown basically.
Yeah.
Because Trevor has to fill in a form at the country, so we don't have Trevor. I've seen that before.
Yes, exactly. I've got to fill in the form, and the other thing is, you know, really they want information about what the money's been spent on.
Can we, I guess we have a sketch or something to do with it.
Yes.
Sketches,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, of course.
Photographs.
Photographs and things.
We have a sketch of what's
We
there.
have a sketch of
And that's what's been replicated. So, yeah, so something like that.
And how it's going to be improved.
How it's going to be improved.
Well, the fact is, it's state now.
The fact that you can actually walk down and see.
I mean, at the moment it's unusable. It's
Yes,
so
it is.
dangerous.
I'm just conscious of time on this because if we're going to reserve a slot in August, is there a way that if I get this breakdown and get it okay with Trevor that we're happy to sign off on it if Trevor's given the proper information that he needs? Is there any way we can do that? Otherwise we're going to be
It's
late.
justifiable to hold a special meeting for it.
Yeah, and that's all
An
right.
extra meeting.
Just to
I'll
set, just to clear it, okay.
So,
But yes, no, I look forward to getting further information and,
Figure it out.
yeah, no.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good. Well, thank you very much indeed.
thank you, Trevor.
Have a good meeting.
So, appoint new committees and working groups.
That's if we need any new ones. I don't know if that's any that old.
Do you want to put together a village plan or can you?
No, good plan.
Neighbourhood plan.
We've already got terms of reference that we can revise. It's good with right now, it's fine.
Okay, one proposal we have would be to merge the Lay-by working group, Oval working group, South Lane, the South View working group in with the property management committee. The proviso that it's mainly the same 3 or 4 people in that committee, and given the South Lane, they're all then interlinked with a lot of similar problems.
Just have one group. Property management.
Property
looks
management
after
that looks after those as a collective areas.
I think the combination with the neighbourhood plan, that would
Neighbourhood,
work really
yeah.
well. And it can speed things up quite significantly.
You didn't mention my name on the environment and climate change one, so it's going
Oh, you added into it, so
Could I come off of that one, please?
The biodiversity.
and in.
Just think,
You've got lots of them.
lots of things to do. Understood?
So So if we can go through those, so that biodiversity would be Councillors Cuthbert, Evans, Walton, Colbert.
Okay.
And then we'll let them appoint any additional
Then we can point it here.
additional members.
First of all.
Complaints committees, all members. Felton Cemetery Joint Committee. Currently Walton and McDonald.
Happy to stay, yeah.
Anybody else want to dive in?
Can't. Where's there? We're squatting.
Finance committee there. Blank, alien, sheep, we heard.
Well, I think it would be
Should
sensible
be.
to put an additional person in case Irene's unable to make it. So,
Can I go in that one then, instead of just being violent contracts on the
Yeah.
review?
Yeah.
And I don't know how my name is on this list.
You were
okay,
going
take you out. I think it's because you were a substitute originally, and then we got rid of that.
Yeah,
and just
I
let it
know,
all
and then I
members.
got involved, but
So
I
we'll
think
put
I
Lindsay,
need to-
we'll keep Lindsay on that one as well for the time being. I'll check with him that he's happy.
Okay. Redfield committee, John, happy,
Happy with that, yeah.
Gemma,
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah.
I'm happy, and I know
Lindsay's
Lindsay
happy,
was
yeah.
definitely happy with that one.
And then we appoint members.
Property management committee, as you say, taking on any workings of the lay-by,
Yeah.
working group, the old working group, and the South Lane South View working group as well. Happy, John?
Yep, I'm happy with that, yeah.
I'm happy, and Chris, you go on proviso that will, are you happy with that?
On the
Yes,
property
I
list,
am.
yeah, and I think Ian as well.
Ian is as well, yeah.
He's now.
Not your choice.
No, he is.
He's
He is, yeah.
He was the chairman last year.
Go on.
Into Thorne, yeah.
So, contracts working group.
I'm happy.
Happy to stay. We'll check with Lindsay and
Yeah, they say that they were.
we'll double check with Lindsay and Richard. So disbanded. Policies working group.
You might need somebody in there instead of Eileen, just as a,
Just
Yeah.
as an extra.
do you want me to do it?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, similar stuff. So. Okay, disbanded.
And then the Redfield will be
Redfield,
appointed its own one.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed. Okay, so confirmation of an interest in insurance cover, Turkey insurance.
I don't think
Oh,
we do it.
oh, sorry.
It's going to be in the neighbourhood plan.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Working group thing, so
Yes, I remember. I wrote it down as well. Neighbourhood plan. Alan.
Richard, I think, is interested in
Yeah. I'm going to tentatively be involved with this, carefully.
We'll keep them initially and then if we need to take that.
Thanks.
The last one there. Thank you. Right. Confirmation of arrangements for insurance cover, Turkey insurance, Zurich. We have hope for 3 years cover at 17.50 and 11 per year, or 19.50 fee for 1 year.
And that's about, it's slightly more than we were paying for not accessible, it'll have just been put up by the inflation rate basically they inflate all our values by that amount. I did look, the HIB looked like they were going to be much more expensive, they seem to be excessively more expensive. I think Jura would be okay, I would say.
I think, given that things are going up all the time, and insurance particularly seems to have rocketed in so many aspects, might be worth considering a 3-year
Yeah,
deal.
we did that last time, so we've just come to the end of the 3-year period. We need to apply in the next 4 days to get that 3-year rate, apparently.
Why not being overspent, does that?
It's a slight overspend that will have to come out.
50 quid.
Yeah, so that will be paid out of general reserves.
So we put that to then a vote to agree that we move on a 3-year basis.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. So, time and place for ordinary meetings, determine the time and place for ordinary meetings, council, look at the schedule out there.
So that's the first, so I've moved them for the bank holidays, and then I moved the April one just to avoid the Easter holiday break.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's going to fall, I think, in the middle of that.
I do Thursday back at school in September. Quite works in all days.
Yeah, so can we what do we agree with? The meetings will be held at the Village Hall 7:15 unless otherwise stated on the date scheduled out.
Yeah.
And then these are we've got some things listed in our standing orders that we would do. So review policies, we've got some more. We've obviously done a set of approvals at the last meeting, and we've got some underway. So we'll finish those off hopefully at the next meeting. The review of inventory and other assets, we'll go through, I mean, I think that's reasonably up to date, but we'll go through it when we check the accounts because it's part of those. Same with the expenditure under section 137, that's any donations we make, and review subscriptions. I don't think we've really got any except our milk one now. But we'll do it at the October budget setting then.
Okay. Finance. To receive financial statement and budget monitoring 29th of June, pages 9 to 12.
I still have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Is now the time?
Yeah.
I still don't understand. If you take, for example, election costs,
Yeah.
you've got reserves 2435.47.
Is this the minus and plusing again? Because,
Right, okay.
because basically we took money out, so when we did our budget we said we're going to take money from some pots of money, so we showed them as minuses and minuses. We ended up having to use that money before the year end, so I've paid the money back that we borrowed from last year and then it's come out of this year's budget, so it's showing us a plus and a minus, but it puts us in the same position as we were.
Right. That minus sign was, I've missed.
So I don't know why it shows it on the left hand side, it's
Format,
it's the format on the side.
What is the fixed assets? What's that?
Bus shelters, mostly.
3,710.68. So is what?
What else do we have in fixed? It's anything.
Floorboards, bush shelters.
No, there's some of the street furniture, bus shelters and feathers, stone and
Tables and dollars and the war memorial.
yeah. We've got their own little pots, but yeah,
So that's just money put aside to spend on those.
as needed.
Should as needed.
That's street furniture. We could combine the two pots, it's just it's always had them set separately, so I'll sort of keep them like that.
Awesome.
Also, the other one was about election costs. I mean, what election costs? I don't understand.
So if we get a contested, if we have every 4 years when the whole council's up for election, or if we have a casual vacancy that resulted in an election, so that would only arise for a 4-yearly cycle election. That would arise if we have more candidates than seats. We would get an election. That's a bit cheaper for us because county council then would just lump it in with their election to happen on the same day, and then they wouldn't bill us, so we would split the costs of managing that with them. If we have a casual vacancy, so that's after a resignation, you have to get 10. If 10 people in the village 10 people on the electoral roll request an election, then there's a by-election, and we have to pay the cost of that.
Right. So that money's put aside for that eventuality. Right. Okay. And there's another 900 quid in the budget. No.
No, it's one of those plus minuses.
Plus and minus.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So then we go on to 14E. Have we, just
Yeah, it's just a question relating to the George F. White £2,490 chartered surveyor, the bill for that. Just wondering, what was the financial year is that bill from?
That's from when we were doing the surgery work, and it was contested at the time. They've recently picked that back up again. They hadn't mentioned it for a long time. We'd asked for a breakdown of fees, so it's on there really to discuss, because I sent it around to you when I got it in. I know we contested at the time. They haven't really been able to provide a detailed breakdown of the work that was done at the time, so it's a decision whether we approve it or not.
I said there was aspects for tranches of £500, and they've got to agree, isn't it, a tranche of £500?
No.
So it's, you know, they've even broken their own contract there.
I think that was one of the things, was that the councillors initially were not aware that the George F. White person actually had a conflict of interest with the CCG in the first place, and he quickly entered into discussions with the CCG without authority from the council. And then when we did get authority in, it was about...
Excuse me, is it a question?
It is, well, it's a bit of a back... Well, you're going to have a discussion about it, so it is a wee bit of background in that Councillor Walton describes, is that the council put in the terms of conditions was it was £500 and he was supposed to come back to the council every £500 spent, which that did not happen. And he didn't actually do the work that we thought. I have two emails sort of here that when the invoice came in, that both Stephen Walton and Tony Hood made reference to, was that he'd sort of with regard to the invoice, I do not recall the parish council ever receiving any advice or his opinion on the heads of terms. For the amount of work that he undertook on behalf of the parish council, it needs a more detailed, it says more detailed, and I think we need to ask George F. White for more information and advice about the terms that we had agreed. And Stephen had said, I do not feel that the invoice in its current form should be paid. I thought we had agreed that we required a breakdown of the costs rather than just a total. And I, for one, would be very interested to see exactly what we are being charged for, as we certainly did not receive the advice on heads of terms. We were merely resent a version that Azura had produced, and that was one from Stephen. So it was, this breakdown was asked for, and actually this gentleman left George F. White at that time. So he only actually worked for George F. White a very short period of time. And that's why the bill was contested, or wanted a breakdown and contested at the time. Pardon? And I was, I was a councillor at the time, so I was speaking from experience of the meetings as well.
I think that we knock that off the payments for now to request a bit of detail. Maybe give us, be able to give us something.
I don't know how much more detail, because you obviously saw the email that came round. I don't know whether, I mean, we can certainly ask for more.
We must be able to track back what he's done in that period of time.
I would
And
suggest
why have we
that,
not chased it up for 2 years have passed? That's the
I would
other
suggest
side.
it simply wasn't recorded. They've got no information to back what they've done.
Shall we read the email? Hi Claire, I hope you're well. Apologies, this matter has been outstanding for some time. I've just tidied up some year-end admin and realised this invoice is still outstanding. I had overlooked it, being one of Andy's old invoices, and I'd very much like to tidy this up for the end of the month. I've looked at the invoice and the file again. The planning care letter covered advice on the project at the point with heads of terms. The agreed fee was 2,500 and the amount raised was 2,075, i.e. 83%. I did discuss this with Andy at the time. We were confident that the amount raised reflected the progress of the work through the project. I know there were a number of meetings discussed and written correspondence. I know there were a number of meetings, discussions and written correspondence. The invoice raised covers all of these elements. Due to timescales of the job and the way Andrew's working, I don't have a detailed timesheet on it. Otherwise, I would have been happy to send that through. Andy's hourly rate under the terms of business would have been £165 an hour, so that would equate to 12.5 hours. I am satisfied with having incurred that on this project, and it also accords with progress made towards the heads of terms as per the CCL. I also note that as part of the correspondence, when our involvement was ended, that there were cover for legal and professional fees as part of the deal in the amount of £10,000. I understand it is now concluded. I assume that was collected by the Parish Council as part of the settlement. Are you in a position to pay this invoice now, or can I help further so that you can? Regards, Richard. The problem is, this predates all of us, and a request for payment, if they can show us where the 12.5 hours was. He says he doesn't have a detailed timesheet, but
They must have records of what he produced.
well, realistically, how can we argue? You know, if they said that it was going to be somewhere in the region of 2,500, then challenging the amount 2 years later, you know, it doesn't put us in a very
Doesn't put us in a very good position, but he should have chased that before 2 years of the lapse.
well, certainly.
You know, and we should have had it carried forward as a liability on our accounts, which we haven't had. So, you know, it came as a bit of out of the blue when I looked at the email, but where the hell this come from? Because there was nothing that referred to it in any way, shape or form on any of our paperwork.
Well,
Because we sort of assumed that when they didn't provide the breakdown at that point, hadn't we? That
the financial year was definitely concluded that incorporate that. And if the Parish Council at the time didn't feel like the work had been done, or the work had been done adequately enough, surely if it was talked about in a meeting, there would have been some sort of a challenge. And if there hasn't been a response by them, i.e. by George White's or Brooks, I don't see how it's justified to wait. So I think go back to them, say there was a query raised, you know, we are in a different financial year now.
Two different financial years.
Was that £10,000 drawn down by the Parish Council?
No, it's been used for. Has it not been used for?
Wasn't it used for the solicitors for
The
years?
solicitors' work.
It's difficult for us to cast a judgment on this.
I think if we can request further
If
details.
someone sends you an invoice, they have to be able to justify it.
Yeah.
May I just to confirm that the contract with this gentleman was to do it in these tranches of 500, yet he never came back, as far as I remember, with any, with those hours.
When that was when that was picked up at the time, though, was there any further correspondence about the trenches of £500?
I think at the time it was just the bill came in at near the end at £2,000, but obviously the clerk will be more able to say what emails that she received and potentially this.
So I mean, I'd have to look back and look at all
Well, I don't think we can prove this at this point, can we? We're going to have to,
We'll have to request more information.
yeah, and have a review of correspondence over it. I mean, the likelihood is the fact that they had given us an estimated cost to agree to the work. If they'll in at less than that, we probably will end up paying it, but we need to just make sure that it's all just done properly, especially so we've not been there.
And we've got no evidence that the work was even done.
Right.
I think in terms of the correspondence that I found was that it was, what was presented to the council was a previous one that Azura had themselves written, so it was not quite a carbon copy, so there was no sort of additional sort of work that you could associate with it.
Not taller, not more power.
No. And actually some of that information from memory was actually incorrect. It was regarding the lease agreement and that we would potentially be having to have a 999-year lease because of government changes, whereas in actual fact that wasn't correct. And obviously, as it turned out, no, it wasn't, because it's 125. So the advice that he was giving was that we're handing it all over.
So go back to the.
We go back and request further information. We understand that a lot of time has lapsed since, but it just to satisfy us to get out.
Pull together a bit relevant and then go back to the board.
Any comments on any of the other payments review?
I'd like to add in some extra salary for the current month, the month that's just finished, so it would be an additional £1,103.21, which would take the total salary payments to £1,103.21.
That's
That's for what month are you now? No, that's for April's salary as well. So it would be 218407.
The 108 is that.
That's March. I'm struggling. Yeah, I'll talk through it if you first, but the system, the pay system now is difficult with the outsourcing of PAYE because there's then every time there's like an additional step in the process. Whereas I just used to submit it at the same time as it's calculated, it was much easier. But, so it's delayed, yeah, it's causing an additional delay, which is not
So is this why
this is why I keep
some of our staff aren't getting paid?
this is why I keep missing, missing the agenda item. So
Something there we need to look at.
We need to look at.
yeah,
So what did we approve staff and salaries and expenses last month? 1,236.
that was the previous. This is the thing, it's like, it's almost out of sync, that was it.
Can I suggest moving forward, is that the salaries and expenses for the month?
Yes,
where it
that would
says
be
salaries and
helpful.
expenses, could we say February, March,
Yeah.
April, May?
Yeah.
If that was, so is that potentially,
That's March,
March.
this is April.
so that's April?
Yeah.
This one's May,
No, that's April,
what's this one?
March. That's what I'm saying, they're a month behind because basically what's happening is I get the hours at the end of the month, they then have to be sent off to be put through the PAYE, by which point because we meet on the first Monday of the month, it's happening it's almost like out of
So
sync.
too tight to
Yeah.
then register it so to get it into the agenda.
So we either pay in advance or we have to wait. It's not good. It's not work. It doesn't work.
It's not good
No.
morale for our staff,
No.
I have to say. So the one that was approved in the minutes
That
was February's.
yeah.
These are salaries. Is there any way that this can be set up to be pre-approved and then any extra bits
Well,
then go to council?
this is what I've suggested that why I would like to move people to like a set number of hours and what do you call it, annualised? Is that what you mean?
Annualised,
Over the
yeah.
year, because then it would just be an automatic payment. It could be done by standing order, but because it's different every month, and therefore there's a different amount of tax, or potentially a different amount of tax or an eye every month, depending if it's like it's triggering an eye in the summer for Peter, or if it's a busy month or it's not, or the same for me on a busy month or not. So it's different every month, and it means that we can't do it as a standing order at the moment. But I was saying that when we talk about the contract hours, we should annualise them across the year, and then it would be in a set amount, and people know what was being paid. It would be approved in advance and just done by standing order.
And then if there is any additionals,
Oh,
they are then approved
Yeah,
as a,
on top.
exactly.
and
And
you
then
can
we
potentially
need
have,
a scrutiny of timesheets to make sure everything's tied up.
Yeah.
and then on that we can have to allow us to get onto an agenda to allow a prompt payment. We have rather than having the end of the month as cut off, it's a mid-month or something to allow kind of things.
That's what
You know.
should happen, but it doesn't. It
So-
comes at the end. It comes after the end of the month.
Yeah,
Basically, that's
no,
the
no.
problem.
How often do the finance committee meet?
When we
Four
want to
times
meet
a
in.
year.
Is there any way that can be
We can meet early. We can meet to discuss this.
meet more, or can they meet more often to scrutinise
Don't see why
timesheets?
not. Don't see why not.
Because if you had a salaried member getting pick a number every month,
Yeah.
and then a timesheet that shows extra hours, the finance committee can
Then
mull it
authorize it
over,
for the next one. Yeah.
authorise it, give it to the parish council in time for the agenda, and then that way the staff get paid on time. Because it goes back to biblical times that someone works and gets paid.
Well,
Yeah.
I know, and I feel very embarrassed when I talk to Peter about the jobs that they're doing in the cemetery, and he still hasn't been paid for 2 months before. It's really quite an embarrassing situation.
Well, yes. I suggest the finance committee are tasked to come up with a solution to this problem, such as timetables, look at the timesheets, annual reviews of employees, and overtime.
I also would like to say that we need to review the salary, because Peter's on a very basic salary, and I think it's gone up years and years and years.
Is it above minimum wage?
No, it's on minimum wage.
There has been an increase in April.
Well, he hasn't.
Well, we need to. I
We need
mean,
to look at it.
this is one of the things that was supposed to come out in contract review, and it just hasn't concluded yet, so we haven't. Yeah.
I have to read all the job descriptions,
Good.
but you're not going to like them this year.
That's fine. I don't mind. Okay, roll call for finance committee meeting now.
I think there was one scheduled for this Thursday, according to my dates when we had the previous set of dates.
Is that not one we moved?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I would love to be there to help them.
Oh, Tanny Baby, where are you off to? Somewhere nice?
Yes, hopefully.
Where are you going?
Germany.
Really?
Anyway,
It's
Anyway.
so nice, and you know you want to go over there.
So, do you all understand the adjusted figures there on the staff salaries and expenses item, increasing it to 2108,
No, 2-1.
218407, and we won't be authorising the GFY payment until we hear further details on it.
Yeah.
We agree with payments?
Agreed.
So,
see.
No,
it's
it's printing.
bank printing. To appoint member to verify bank reconciliation in accordance with the financial regulations 2.2. Been myself for the last year, so I'm not able to now.
I don't mind doing
And
it. Will you help me to understand the finances?
definitely will.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I add that I never want a lengthy process to get set up. So I'll
It's
do
easier
it.
now.
Alright, well I'll do it until someone
But
else
then
wants
you
to do
not
it.
do it straight on the map now.
What?
And you've not changed the otherwise signatories straight on the map now.
It's great.
No, because it's because of our mandates to signatories, but they just do it by, you have to sign a bit of paper and scan it in now, so it's easier in theory.
Again, I think it's probably sense that people on the finance committee might take that role up. So
Can I do it? I'm happily taking it on.
Take it over instead of.
well,
But
Lindsay's one and I do that.
we need, and the
Well, there you go. So Lindsay steps down and I don't want to do it anymore.
we need three, replacing these away.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll return that stuff to you.
Well, you could stay as a backup, or do you want to come off?
Yeah.
You want to come off? Okay.
So, parish representation at meetings. Received reports from councillors at any meetings attended. Did we have any?
There was a bit of trouble thing for last year because I was on the way. So.
Okay, no problem.
16 we've had.
16 we've had. Update from the police.
No update for the day.
No update from
No,
the
no
police.
update. Jump to the side.
Riverside, we're clear, we've made the actions there just to clarity that we'll get the updated detail. Red phone box.
I've had a conversation with Lauren Lewis, who is said it's not exactly the kind of thing that they would do, but they do have the equipment. They do have the equipment that they would need to move and transport it to the airfield. She was going to, she hasn't yet, she was going to give me a quote for that work. She just wanted to check the condition of the phone box, and look at it and just check with her, you know, on her like permit side of it. She was going to give me some advice about streetworks. They do have a streetworks licence, so they would be able to do the work. I think we will need to go, having looked at it all again with Lauren, I think we are going to need to go back to the planning department, because the advice we received from them that we didn't need planning permission was based around the fact that we were going to at the time potentially get it done on site. I think if we're moving it as a listed structure, we will need planning permission. My gut feeling is that we are going to need planning permission for that.
What is the nature of the street works restriction?
It's that because they are carrying out work beside the highway, they need to have certain permits to, the county council will oblige them to have certain permits to carry out that work next to the adopted highway.
Or even, I mean, even if you've got like a group of volunteers together to work on the thing, you still, I mean, if you were just stripping the old paint off and repainting.
I think it would be okay if we were just doing it on, I feel like it probably would be okay from what they've said if we were doing it on site, because, but it's the fact that we're moving it. I think it's because we're going to need a vehicle on the road that we're transporting onto. That's the point that's the problem.
We're lifting it and putting it on
Down to the
the
liability that it's competent persons doing the work, it's not a company, you know, tick the boxes. But
And county council also
liability
said,
services.
county council also said that that it will get, and I think this is what Lauren was saying, that they should be able to help with, that we have to get a sign off from the bridge department of county council as well, which will go via the streetworks process because it's on a bridge. Even though it's not going to affect the structure of the bridge at
So why are
all.
we taking it away? It seems to me
Well, this is the thing.
We've been offered the free restoration of the phone box.
by the
By the airfield, we have to,
Right.
we have to,
We have to
We're
get
going to
it.
have to weigh,
we have to get it there
we're going to have
because
to weigh up that cost compared to the potentially planning application cost plus Lewitz's costs for removing it compared to the original quote we had for doing it in situ, which will have gone up since because it's been
yes,
a little while.
because the removal, it'll be a double cost because it'll probably be the same but back. You then have to weigh the cost of potential damage to the surface of the bridge. There will be. If
you move.
yes, if it's up, it might only be a couple of inches, or it might be a metre of the bridge surface, but that may need
Could we not just strip the paint off and put a new coat? It
needs
doesn't look absolutely
more than
Which wouldn't.
Well, only the doors wouldn't, the rest of
doors-
it's cast
yeah,
iron.
the doors wouldn't. It needs a full quick
Or in the
cast.
bottom, plate on the bottom of the door to protect it
But I just feel
replace
like
the
once we
door?
start putting all of those costs together, it may not come out
Too much.
much cheaper than getting it done in situ in the first place, without the risks of damaging the bridge surface and damaging the phone box in its removal and having to reinstall it to a good reinstallation. I know Blokes will manage all of that, it's just
I can see another 7 or 8 months in there.
It could well be, but we have to make sure that we are able to justify whatever decision that we make. There's no way around it.
But if we're having an additional meeting anyway for the
If we
for
have
the ramp, or we'll
Okay.
bring it in with that
Right.
and push it forward so that we kind of
we'll have this call.
get quotes all lined up so we can do a proper comparison cost. I'll contact the company we spoke to originally and see if that's right.
You can update it.
Is it still got electricity supply to it, even if it's not right?
It looks like it. I haven't actually been down to the tester, but there is a wire there.
Because that's the complication.
Exactly.
There'll be an isolation point.
So why are we disconnected in the telephone box somewhere? Not in the telephone box, but
Yeah, exchange.
in the exchange.
Right. So do you want me to contact the company again, or do you want?
I'll just do it and I'll put it all together.
Okay.
That's fine.
Receive us of correspondence.
I'm not going to go through it unless anybody's got any particular questions.
Questions or any?
Yeah, I didn't get a couple of these. Correspondence. The one about bee swarms I haven't got.
Oh, it was very basic. It was just somebody offering their services if there was a bee swarm. I wrote back to say thanks.
Who was that person out of interest?
Who was it? I
Yeah.
can't remember. I'll have to look at it.
As a beekeeper, I was. Yeah.
It's that time of year, isn't it?
It is.
It's Parish.
Happy with that.
Why not being Felton and doing funds this year?
They've got some plants left over, I think, and I can't remember exactly what this. Pardon? Yeah. I could, if I may make a comment about, since it was the WI, I think the letter that you received wasn't quite accurate and misheard what was discussed. So if you like, I could get them to send another letter, just depending on what you want.
Yeah.
I think it's funds, and it was just, she just said,
Yeah, there was £20. We had £20 left over from the last planting, and I think she said she thought that was enough for going forward. But actually, when it came to part of the discussion, it was that we would need small plants, and potentially it would be another 20 plus 20. But I think that is in the minutes.
okay,
I can confirm that with an email for you.
that's fine. Well, if they do, just send that in, I think.
Because the cemetery clerks just bought the plant for the cemetery and the war memorial. And that was 55, about £55.
After seeing the effort of the ladies and their planting ability, I would happily donate as a business in the village to that. So if you can mention it to the WI, if they need an outsourced donation for anything, something like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God, are you trying to donate your trees that you could sit
We don't want any trees.
No.
But we've got 600, we guys have got just over £640 in the Felton Blue pot anyway. I know that was intended to include to replace some of the planters as well. But obviously there is money there because of the it.
I think because obviously the WI fund their own planter, and then the other funds then or look after other planters that have been left behind. So that the money that we ask for is for those planters. So I think in essence it would be £40 that we would be asking, but I'll resend or get somebody to resend a letter just to confirm.
It's very cheap for Felton, to be honest.
Well, no,
It's free labour, isn't it? No one else that
It
does.
is. I think we make an effort to source very reasonably priced plants and sort of bring them on, and I think it has been said previously that the idea is to put more perennials in so that the cost comes down all of the time. There'll be an initial cost for the longer living plants, but it'll go.
I mean, we tend to have some structure there all year as well.
Yes.
With the perennial.
Yeah.
So.
But I will pass that message on.
Yeah, that's okay.
Planning procedural list for the planning matters, page 13.
We've just got a planning application as well, but I haven't looked at it, so I can't tell you if this is maybe about to come out.
This one, I think it's that the land northwest of
Really hot.
Aye, it's literally near enough in along Framington. Is that as far as the
That's
managed
from
by
where
the
we are,
goes?
That's how it's.
That's a right strange offshoot,
Yeah.
that, isn't it?
It is.
It kind of threw me when I was growing up, when I was up on the
It's the
planning
bit
board.
that links to Hexham very well.
Look where Hexham said.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so, do we need to be able to hear?
No.
Okay.
Just obviously updating the damages, Trevor alluded to it. We've just waiting to hear now back from the court about the permission stage. County Council don't want to speak to us until that has happened.
Okay.
But meanwhile, everyone's done the garages they want has been left. It was just that was one comment on Facebook that came up, which I didn't get a chance to respond to, saying that they've still been evicted, but
Yes, I saw that one.
Yeah.
I think I wonder if it's because the letters have been sent out promptly. I know that some of them had already received them, but they got told to ignore them.
Yeah. Were they officially told about it?
I don't know, probably not.
Do we know how much is involved in this asset transfer and how much is that because of the court case that everything's
They
been
won't,
put on
yeah,
hold?
they don't want to.
Can we unpause the whole process? Because I think this is the route out of this.
Yeah, they won't.
They're not going to
Just-
give us something that earns them quite a lot of money every year for very little expenditure.
Well, we
They
can't,
might accept that.
they won't meet with us until after the
Yeah,
first stage of the job.
this ball's rolling and it's going to have to roll soon. I think.
I thought we were at a stage where we could stop it rolling if we so.
Not
can't
until
stop
that in court.
If you stop it, that's it. You can't pause it, in my opinion.
Because I think even if they cross the whole planning permission thing, they'll just come straight back to it again. So we have to try and find an alternative
Badly printed.
route out of this. This seems to be the best solution to me.
I think it's a good idea, but I honestly can't see them giving away that asset because it is quite a financially attractive asset. If they were to build 4 houses on it and have the garages,
Despite
they'd be getting a lot of money in. I don't think they're going to be keen to hand it over to us. Or if they did, it would cost us an awful lot of money to purchase it in the first place.
I think basically they're going to sit, because obviously if the permission hearing goes their way and we get told they haven't got permission to review their decision, then there's no incentive at all for them to, that's why they want to wait.
So why don't we take them up on their offer of the financial transfer?
But
Because
because
they
actually,
they haven't made an offer. Rob has suggested it as a possible
Yeah.
option,
Seems like a very attractive
but it's not his power to
Yeah,
grant
it's
it.
not,
He's
yeah.
just mentioned it to Trevor as have they thought about this? It's not an offer. We haven't received any offer from the county council about
let's
that.
be fair, we haven't received anything from the county council
No, we
at
haven't.
all.
But
in writing.
yeah. No, nothing.
Nothing about that we've got an 18-month stay.
It's all very much like,
everything is
you
word of
know,
mouth.
Trevor
People
and
to
people
talk.
are talking, but they're kind of, it's all very hearsay, and it's just Trevor reporting back here, and he hasn't got authority to offer that, Rob hasn't got authority to offer that. they're just sort of throwing out suggestions, but then there's no. And when I asked about, so I spoke to the legal team at NCC and said this has been suggested, and that's when we got told they wouldn't have any discussions with us until after the permission hearing.
When is the permission hearing?
We don't know yet.
Don't have a date.
No.
Right.
I think we've just got to sit tight.
Sit tight in limbo until we hear otherwise.
Right, a very badly printed out update, but I'll just go through what, I mean, we've obviously discussed a lot of the stuff tonight. I reported the white fence again on their new system, which seems much more efficient. I did get an email back to say that action is, what did it say, action?
Action,
Action scheduled.
action scheduled, yeah.
So is that the one?
The white
we walked
fence.
past?
There's also the drains, the sunken drains that were complained about, sorry, the raised drains that were complained about
And they're not Sunday?
So
Some
yeah.
opinions, yeah.
at
Kenwood
Park. Action scheduled, they're sending an inspector out for those. The waste, so you remember that there was loads of waste, vegetation cleared by the garage holders when we were going to have our protest. That's been passed to the neighbourhood services team to pick up. So it feels like, they feel very like they're taking a lot of action all of a sudden when they haven't done anything for months. So new financial year maybe.
I would be happy for me to do a Facebook update. Well, it probably is better coming from the parish council rather than me reading name, to be quite honest. But I think that's something people do seem to be responding to that.
Do you want me to just, well,
If you want, yeah, I'll do it too, just to say
from the page.
this is,
And then
The
everything
fence
else.
at Riverside, the one that's about to fall down the hill?
No, but I'll try and put that through the new system.
There is a considerable drop,
There is a considerable drop, it's about 8 feet in place, or something on there.
and there's an argument that we've noticed the risk, and if we choose not to do anything about it and wait for the county to do it, I don't think that exonerates us from blame. So I think if we can't get something done on that, we should carry out a repair from our side of the land. Because,
From our side of the land, it would be very difficult up that steep slope.
well, yes, but if we then carry out a repair on their side of the land,
and we're permanently
I will-
responsible for it.
it's,
Trampoline, underneath.
I think it's nothing other than habit keeping that fence up. I think in a strong wind or anything to push
If
it.
anybody fell against it.
If anybody leant on it, it would go. And that's my worry, that people trip and lean on
But
it.
it's, but while we assess the risk, and if we wonder about the fact that we don't really want to pay for it and someone hurts themselves, then they're going to hurt themselves onto our land.
Can we put a sign up from our land saying
Gemma, I
warnings?
think we're just
No,
fencing.
because it's too low.
Fencing is not,
Oh, I know that, but the thing is though that does then, if we put a fence up, we are then permanently responsible
you
for
can't
it.
send them the bill.
Sorry?
I can like fix the fence and send them the bill.
No, because they're not admitting it's their land. They don't think it's
Yeah.
their responsibility.
But then if they think it's our responsibility,
Trevor's brigade put that dogs, is it dogs?
Birds,
Birds, whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
the fence along, so they must accept responsibility for that
That's
part.
highways.
Well, then that's it, but it's,
So, I know, but this,
somebody's got to take responsibility for the fence.
Well, we can adopt responsibility and make a decision to do that if that's what we're saying that we want to do. Or, Claire, if this didn't get put through the stuff that went through
I'll try
today,
with this new system, yeah.
did you get to speak to an actual human being today?
No, just put
What
on
was
the system.
It's fair enough.
Right.
Also not human.
I think it's I used under,
Right, I will have
I
one
think
more,
it's much
one
improved.
more push.
If you have all the push, can we add it onto
The
the
ramp
Ramp
meeting.
Riverside meeting and decide some action on it? Because it's kind of safe area.
How,
We don't want one more push, do we? Have written one more push fence at the top of the
how easy would it be to sink posts into that land with all those tree roots and things in there?
I think the best way to fix that fence is take it out and put a new one in.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, put new met posts in or something, you know, with the road.
I can,
Well, obviously we'll build on what we excessive amount of bird's mouth fence up at the surgery lands, which are potentially not noted on a transfer over. We could use, even if we can't reuse the uprights, that we have the rails there that are of
They are
a substantial that we could use them as posts, or we buy new posts and use that as a rail for lining the top. Which would then, then require talking that we're labour power only to do it. I think it'd be worth looking at as well.
Right, and then the only other update that I particularly wanted to talk to you about was from the solicitor about the transfer land at the surgery. So this has gone backwards and forwards a few times because it seems that our solicitor was waiting for, but I don't really understand how this has happened. The Sure solicitor seemed to have offered their document, and our solicitor sought our instructions on that because they said, oh, usually it would be for us to draft it, the person who's transferring the land away would draft the document. Were we happy to go ahead the opposite way around, and they would just amend it. So, that eventually got approved, and then they've now come back. The buyer solicitor has advised that they do not in fact have a precedent long lease, and have asked us to produce it instead, after chasing on that basis, so it seems a bit weird. Anyway, I have advised that we can do so, but our costs would increase as a result. He's written the landlord solicitor, I think he means railway solicitor, has advised that their client is not prepared to provide any further contribution to our costs. And I mean that's maybe that is assurance. And that if they are to proceed, any increase would need to be covered by you. Are you happy to pay our additional costs for doing so, or would you like me to insist our further costs are payable by the buyer? They are already obligated to pay our fees of £5,000 plus VAT, irrespective of whether or not the matter completes. So you have a strong negotiating position in this sense, but please confirm so I can start drafting. We are at just under 2,500 at the moment in time spent, so we still have 2,500 left of the original undertaking, but now we are drafting documents that expect us to be around 7,000 by completion, so an extra £2,000. So basically he's saying they will meet Assure will meet the bill up to 5,000, that was part of the original agreement, and we would end up paying 2,000. However, this will be done on a time spent basis, so it's an estimate.
Well, I think they are suggesting that we insist that they pay.
I know, and my concern is that with all the delays already, and every time they contact me, they sort of say materials are getting more expensive. It's the longer we take, the more it's becoming a risk of being not financially viable. I know that they're saying that because they want to push that argument. But
just saying, on a note, if materials to start coming down a bit in the construction industry from what we've experienced at work.
So yeah.
So
I think one last push.
Give it one last push.
They were going to give us money as a nice little sweetener, weren't they, at one point?
They still are, I think, still in terms of it's still in the heads of terms, so that should come our way.
That would get 20 grand. Let's push our luck, and if not, effectively we are getting money from them.
Yeah, so the costs are covered anyway.
Yeah.
Can I give him an instruction then that he is to push back once, but then to accept that we will pay it? Because I don't want to
we don't want to go backwards and forwards.
I know. So can I reply to him to say we would like you to
Just
try?
spends 4 hours sorting this out, we should just pay it.
Yeah.
He's right, he spends all about 4 hours.
I don't think so, he's just drafting a quick
But if we say to him, if he sends one back, and if they come back, if they come back to say no, then he should just proceed and we will meet the bill. Or do you want him to?
and then we'll charge them a petrol amount of £2 grand.
Or do you want them to go to them, and if they say no, to come back to us with further instructions? That's right. So we're giving him authority to proceed regardless after one push, or are we saying if you get a no, you have to come back to us? I just think
I think if you write a letter telling him that give it one push and then pay, he'll write a letter in such a way that it'll just waste time. His bill will go up, and then he'll pay it.
What about one more push come back to us? And then we can add it
I
on to
don't-
the
I
round,
just-
just
I
the
don't-
red
We
full box.
don't need to even say one more push, I think we just have to say, yes, please, I
Challenge.
challenge it, and that's all we say. Yeah, please send a letter of challenge, and inform us of the response, and I think that's all we have to say, and then if they say, they still refuse to say it, then we can, we know what to do.
You just need to recognise the risk that then would make a small cost on that. But as Anne said, we can introduce it into a paper run.
So, what about on the board?
Ongoing matters, I have had a resident, whilst I was working in my garden, complain again. It's just regarding the speeding in the village. Noted on mainly the DPD delivery van heading into Rochester Drive uses the speed bumps a bit ramp at the moment, I think, and
So
obviously
into the estate.
into the estate, obviously where we do have a lot of children playing right in front.
The other day when we had the traffic coming through on the bank holiday as well, there were like huge lorries thundering downhill. They really were more than 30 miles an hour as they were coming down the corner, and brakes squealing and God knows what, so they were trying to get around the bend.
On the traffic safety, we have the councils put out their own one 18 months ago, 12 months ago, something like that. Is it something we could maybe looking at as getting a private company ourselves to do put the survey tubes of the road to monitor it, and then we have our evidence, we can go look here, county, this is our belief, we've done this survey with this independent company, we can look into the cost of that.
We should be contacting the local community police as well, because they have public speed guns.
Then they can go right to,
Yeah.
I don't mind setting it down the driveway.
The police come and offer training on how to do that.
Yeah, we asked this before, I mean it was a while ago, so definitely worth a re-ask. We asked this before, and there was a pause because they said that they weren't offering any training for community speed watch at the time. We asked. We also heard from somebody who had done community speed watch in a different place, and he said it was quite difficult, that volunteers dropped off a little bit because they did face abuse from people. You don't do it in your own village, so what happens is it's like an exchange scheme. You agree that you're going to speed watch somebody else's village and they come and speed watch yours, but you're not kind of telling on your neighbours. But apparently it wasn't a very pleasant experience. This was just, I mean, as I say, somebody that spoke to me about it, so it wasn't very pleasant. And as I say, the police have stopped doing it for a while, but I can certainly ask if they're starting up again and looking into doing it.
Could we even request that they put the wires, instead of putting them next to the bit at the top where there's the inch pin, put them halfway down the hill,
Well, that's the thing.
where people are actually speeding up, or...
Since we've not had any detail back on the survey that was carried out by them, we do our own private one with this individual company. We agree 2 positions, one down at say just south of the entrance to here, and then one, I don't know, just beyond the bus shelter there. So then you've got the monitoring in 2 different locations. So as much as the speed, they can speed up coming down in here, but then they have to slow down there a bit, or the vice versa, the cars coming out of the village as well. They can speed hit where it opens up there and then just crack on.
Speed leaving the village is probably just as concerning as well.
Yeah.
You know,
When you go down through the village, they have to slow down to a certain degree because of traffic, etc. But they don't, or some of them don't.
I didn't even know you could do private speed.
There are companies that would do it. I can look through them and suggest we can make some. I can look for a couple of names and even ask for some thoughts. Used to work for one in a premium, not companies that I suggest, one in Scotland that were for previously that did them, so there should be maybe a permissions thing that.
When does the traffic plan come round? because every time we kind of,
Missed it,
miss it, so it might be worth
Haven't
thinking
had
about
anything
what,
from them this year yet.
what, being ahead of the game with the traffic plan and actually going for
It's
a
usually-
crossing for the
well,
children
it
at
used to be always be
the by school and the
It
white
used to always be
fence.
September, but then they brought it forward last year, but they'd already sent out the stuff last year, I think by this time they haven't this year, so.
Just think it might be really good to
Ask some questions on that as well. That could even be a point at the end of where the old shop comes out, and then we could put some wires there, potentially monitoring speed, which would then more justify a crossing point.
It's just every time we suggested something, we've been knocked back, we never seem to get anything on the local
It's because it doesn't align with what their priorities are.
And it's, we're not the priority, but if we can prove that there's a
That's
real
it.
health and safety risk
Yeah.
because of speed and traffic, and we've got data to prove it, they've got to take us seriously for it, you know.
The thing is, this sort of thing needs to be, like registrations, if you see a DPD van flying through your estate, you try and get the reg and you can tell the police, because then you can say, it's been,
Not flagging them up.
we've made 10 or 20 in the last 3 months complaints about speed, about all these reg numbers, what are you doing about it?
There's some cars at about 12:30 go through the village, and they are absolutely steaming up the hill. They come straight down the path, squeal round the bottom, and just go straight up the hill.
At
And
night
it's just- Yeah. No, when I'm done walking.
Some road man.
I did see the milkman on Sunday night. Well, actually, when
Keeps collecting me an extra pint of milk.
there you go.
Freebie, we'll get a pay for it.
I don't need to speak to him on it.
Do you want me to tell them this?
So honestly, I'll look into that survey companies. Be something that comes up on. Any items for the next agenda?
So we've got an additional meeting with ramp fence and phone locks on, and then the other agenda, the normal agenda will be policies.
I was just going to say, from our walk around the Brickfield walking group, stuff like the play bar, there's sand pits and stuff like that still need maintenance. So I think can that be on for discussion next time to agree? The summer's the time that the park's getting used.
Yeah.
I think the working party type thing.
They can work with parties, yeah.
Working party, we can get an updated quote for Play Park Park, and we look to get that for the next meeting. Then there's a need to quote and order.
I'd quite like to get the neighbourhood plan, get a bit of momentum behind it again. Does this need to be properly discussed at a meeting, or can I be putting messages out on Facebook and asking people's opinions, maybe even arranging a public meeting? at some point?
I'll do that with you.
Right,
Put something on Facebook.
okay. And we can do signs on lampposts and that sort of thing, and sort of maybe do. We've missed the publication date for the bridge, I think, haven't we? So-
Yeah, it's printed.
Yeah, right. So it'll be another 2 months before the bridge gets going, but we can do sort of electronic versions of it. Is that okay, or do I need to
No,
ask this?
We know it's going. We just need to get the public meeting in place, don't we?
If you need a survey or anything going in, you know, obviously the bridge will be quite there.
Yeah, that sort of consultation section, almost like a questionnaire.
Street bench report.
Such as planters, benches, bins.
And we'll need to make sure we tie in the cemetery committee, so if we, in the cemetery committee, we're going to replace 1 or 2.
I was thinking,
Two.
Too much
I
fun.
don't know if anybody will fund it.
We are looking at fancy bench. It's fancy.
Come on, my girls.
I saw one in the Wales, it's a lovely company. They have all these, the sort of Tommy silhouettes, and there's a whole range of them: nurses, horses, poppies, horses.
No, we'll just keep them separate.
I saw one. If anybody wants to have a look at there is one at Morpeth railway station, so you can see it, what it actually looks like in the flesh.
That's how I feel, I really like it, I think we'll do it there.
So,
I need to move the box.
I always think about it in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we start to do it now, we might be ready for next November.
Right.
For that next week, when we're talking benches, can we get some quotes for benches then?
Yeah.
Of the types that we're replacing, and maybe numbers and propose the order
When's the
meeting
next
as well.
meeting likely to be for that?
The next one's the 5th of June, but we've got our extra red phone box, so we can take now if we want.
Yeah.
So, James,
What?
Jamie's going away on Friday.
So if you could do it for I mean, our next parish council meeting is only in 3 weeks because of this.
I think he's away, just let me check.
It's been so late, hasn't it?
But all we need is him to get the date down, and then we can just discuss
If
it.
our next one's in 3 weeks, do we need an extra meeting?
Yeah, in between.
I think so, just given, if he's saying he now gives him August, 3 weeks, then we're, you know, we're in this potentially late August, September,
We could meet.
and then just if he is busy taking on work.
We could try and meet next. We could meet next Monday night.
Yeah.
Not here.
So,
Not that we have to be. True.
as long as we have enough people.
At least 3. At least 4. Sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4. Could you be here next Monday? Be a short, quick meeting to discuss it.
Then potentially
Potentially
Lindsay's back
Lindsay,
and Richard.
is it?
Not if it's a Monday night, you'll not want to quite Would you have any objections if I put a competition in the fair for designing some metalwork to potentially put in the fountain for the coronation?
Yeah, because we would do that.
Wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
Yes, you would have an objection.
No, no.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to find.
But okay.
And then it's a forum that,
Yeah, it's a great idea.
yeah, and it just would be an extra class for the kids and adults. I'll put it in both sections and then we'll come up with something.
Yeah, great idea.
I know that's not on the agenda, it was something I just was thinking about the other day when I was putting the programme together. We talked about it the last time, didn't we?
I think we're going to have to write some kind of blurb for Trevor about the run, and then just add it in if I manage to get a breakdown from Jamie.
Yeah, we just need to
Well,
put
we've got
him
the
to
sketch,
just
like
if we need
this
him
one.
to break down of materials and labour,
Yeah.
we can put in to
Yeah.
show what the current situation
Yeah.
is and what the proposed new one's going to be like. So
So we've got a plan,
we've
so as long as we've got a plan, and we take photographs,
Has Jamie got registered?
I don't think he is, no.
Well, could you ask him if the parish council can supply the materials? Because that would then save us 20% on materials.
Right, okay.
And that's
Yeah,
the person.
I think this is why it's a biggie, because he's having to, because he usually, because like when he did the work for us, we paid all of these we paid everybody individually.
Yeah.
But he's agreed to employ this guy in order to simplify all this for us and do it under his insurance.
So it's like a subcontract,
Yeah.
and he's he not registered? Because that could then potentially get us under Trevor's allotted amount.
Yeah.
But if it's going to put a spanner in the works, you know, don't let that
Do
be.
you know what? I'm just going to go with you because it's writing me an essay at the moment.
I just think if we could get a cutting list, if you want,
Yeah.
of what exactly we need to buy, the parish council's back registered.
and treatment, you know.
Yeah, we could
No,
be.
it's not, but we just think we're
Yes, we're putting the VAT back. It just means, because there'll be a vast, considerable amount of this labour, but there will be a few thousand of parts and materials not to look to, and potentially, he might not be interested, he might want to sort it out all himself, but we could essentially get 20% back on that.
So just to hop on, looking back at dates for this meeting, if we go for next Monday, the agenda would have to go out tomorrow. Which is
I
fine.
said that James going away on Friday.
Well, if we don't do, I cannot do Thursday, Friday next week. Then it's May half term, and I'm busy for the first half of that. And then the week after is our parish council meeting.
Book it in for Monday, and I'll try and get this sorted.
We can't be here, but it's no problem.
Well, we can.
You can go.
Quick call to do.
You're roaming, yeah? I hope so. Joe, I don't mean to put a spanner in the works by suggesting that. I just think.
Oh no, I don't think you are at all. I just don't want to miss the opportunity of us actually getting this booked in to get it done in August. And I'm just trying to think every way, shape, or form to make it happen.
I don't want to paraphrase Trevor, but having a breakdown of how much things are going to cost. What's the we're not asking for a method statement.
Oh no. I think it's generally he's done that. He told me how much it was via message, and he says, "Do you want a written quote?" I said, "Yes, please." Before tonight, he's sent me that over this afternoon. And if I'd thought more than 2 seconds about it, I would have asked him for it to be a breakdown in the first place. But it's the way he rolls. So, and he will, it's
even if it's, to the level of, right, we've got X here is material, X here is labour, X here is plant, and for a duration, estimated duration of 5 days work, that gives us something a bit more. When we tag that in with the drawings, the photographs, we can tart it up into a nice little report for Trevor, and it just gives him more comfort. And we have Trevor's pledged 10, and we have 6 in reserves. So
we might want to pay for some fence out that.
yeah, might well pay for some fence, but it's comfortable at the moment.
what have we got left to do?
Chair, sorry, can I just ask a question? Because this was, on the 6th of March, I sent the clerk details of Gavin Christie from Northumberland Fencing. Did you ever get in contact with him to see if he could do the work?
Sorry, I haven't, because by that time Jamie had come forward. No.
So when you say you haven't had time to go for any of the quotes, you did have time, but you just haven't done it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we were in quite in detail with Jamie. Jamie at the time.
I think that was just last month. And that
Okay.
So this is March that I sent this information.
Okay. Noted. So I think we're closed out with the items for the next agenda. Agreed next Monday. Date for the next ordinary meeting, 5th of June, and for the following additional meeting, 7:15. We happy with that?
Yeah.
Then item 25, resolution to exclude the public and press. The Parish may reserve the resolve to pass a resolution under sections 2.1.2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1916 to include the public press due to the confidential nature of the business to be discussed, which involves personal data. I hope to close the meeting now.